There's so much going on with the Browns. They started joint practices with the Panthers this week ahead of their first preseason matchup on Friday. Friday at 7 o'clock for those wanting to tune in. Football is back, baby. I'm so excited. Birthday Saturday. I get to kick it off with a Browns W, maybe. Uh, there you go. It is not in Cleveland, though, Christine. It is away. Um, so that's Friday at 7. Biggest news, though, and we mentioned it off the rip, the biggest news is that Shedeur Sanders was named the starting quarterback Friday, despite being fourth on the depth chart. He and Tyler Huntley, who was recently re-signed, will split the QB duties for the entire game. Noah, let's start with Shedeur. Thoughts on being fourth on the depth chart?
Well, let's play that clip real quick of Kevin Stefanski officially announcing it today, and then we can go into Shedeur fourth on the depth chart since you talked about all of that. Is that cool with you? Thumbs up. He's drinking his Gatorade. No worries.
On the game itself, we got game Friday night coming up. We'll rest some starters. Some players will play, obviously holding out some guys due to injury, as you know. And then we'll play Shedeur at quarterback. We just signed Snoop Huntley, as you guys saw. We'll get Snoop back up to speed quickly. He's been in a couple different offenses since we last saw him, so he's doing a great job of working at it. But it's a great opportunity for all of our young players in that.
So you asked me, go ahead.
Real quick before you jump in, my biggest takeaway from that video, did you know that Tyler Huntley's nickname was Snoop?
I did. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
He's been on the roster before. You should know these things, Erik. You do
Listen,
this podcast thing.
I don't pay attention to fourth string quarterbacks unless they're named Shedeur.
You act like he doesn't have a chance to start for us. Hasn't he started games for us already?
Yeah, when we were on our fourth string quarterback.
No, I think it was preseason, actually. Regardless. So Shedeur being at fourth string, not surprising. Anything that we've seen, whether it was even today during the joint practice with Carolina, throughout the weeks, throughout the time camp was open to the fans prior to the preseason games, Shedeur has solidly been in that fourth string role. I don't think they are really getting to the evaluation of these guys until there's more live compete periods against other teams. We have obviously this week with Carolina, whether it was not the open practice, but the practice between the two teams today or the preseason game on Friday at 7 p.m., as well as next week they have practice with the Eagles twice and a preseason game with the Eagles, which they do pretty often. Those are two close organizations if you've ever listened to me talk on the show. So am I surprised? No. Do I think it's going to change? I hope so. I know how the media and how a lot of the Colorado Browns fans have shaped the narrative of he needs to get first team reps right away. In due time, I think it's going to come. But he's looked good, and as long as he continues to look good, there's no reason they're going to not shoot him up the depth chart. What do you think?
Listen, the fact is Shedeur Sanders is learning. The NFL is not college. He's in a brand new offensive scheme that he's not used to. The other players on the depth chart obviously have some more experience ahead of him. Dylan Gabriel, he might not be what we're looking for, and he might not have shined recently, but the transition from the offense that he was playing to what the Browns are running in that pro-style format is an easier transition than one Shedeur. That's not to say that Shedeur, like you said, isn't going to shoot up the depth chart, because I expect the exact same thing. We might go into the season with 4 quarterbacks, but we're not keeping 4 on the roster throughout the season. And I don't think that Shedeur's on the chopping block. I don't get that feeling. I could be wrong.
I don't think anybody truly thinks either of the rookies are on the chopping block at this point. And if you do, I want to know where that opinion's coming from, because why would they get rid of 2 rookie quarterbacks when we're in a situation where we need a quarterback so damn bad? And us getting one this year would behoove us way more than it would be to using both of our first round picks next year, because we could use those on positions we need, like an offensive lineman, like another wide receiver, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and listen, I hate this talk about Arch Manning next year. First of all, I'm not even sure he won't still be in college next year, but the kid has played 2 games in college so far. Started 2 games, I should say. The fact that he's supposedly the Brown savior that they're going to draft is insane. but we're being so forward looking. I think the line on the Browns is 3.5 wins this season out of Vegas. So I think
Something like
people are
that.
just, which I still think is ridiculous. Um, but that said, I mentioned it off the rip. Who exactly will they be throwing to? I think that's a big question. Wide receiver one is Jerry Jeudy right now. I think the Browns make a move to add somebody and add some depth there. I don't know though. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know about wide receiver. I think Deontay Johnson has looked solid at practice. It's all about if he can keep his head on right. We've talked about that before on the show as well. The clip of him talking about how he just wasn't there mentally and it made him look horrible with the quotables that came out of that podcast interview. I think they like what they have. I think they like what they saw out of Tillman last year. I think they believe they can keep Deontay Johnson under wraps and cool for whatever reason, because we have never been great at doing that. See Exhibit XYZQRS that has happened since this
He
front
is
office has taken over.
he is listed as a backup though right now, isn't he?
He is listed as a backup, but that doesn't matter. And I wanna take a step back for a second because you're talking about the current depth chart. The depth chart at this point in time, to me, is such a waste of time and space and care, because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. None of this is going to be even remotely close to what it looks like by the time we get to the season anyway. It's about playing games with people's heads so we make sure they're in the right direction, or uh, putting names where other teams that we're actually going to play in the regular season might not think or worry about what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't know. I feel like we're still one guy needed. I think we have seen steps like you said. But Jerry Judy, I love the guy, but he's not a number one guy. I do think we'll see a tight end heavy scheme, especially with Fannin looking pretty good, and Stefanski likes to run that anyway.
Yeah,
So
the
it should be
12 personnel.
interesting looking at that setup. But that said, did you see the play where Flacco had like a 60-yard bomb to I'm
Jerry
blanking.
Judy.
Yes,
Wasn't it Judy today?
it
Yeah,
was
I
Judy.
did.
Yeah, yeah.
Flacco looked good at training camp, and I don't know. Do you want to use this as our transition to get into training camp a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk more. So it's their first joint practice with the Panthers, who they play on Friday. Uh, what do you want to talk about? I want to talk about the fact that Andy Dalton's still playing football, which is wild to me. Uh,
Yeah, that was a funny name to see pop up when we were looking at like Daniel Fusi and Zach Jackson and whatnot, the people who are at camp and talking about what's going on with the team during joint practice. But yeah, no, that was a funny one to
he threw
hear.
a pick too.
He did throw a pick today. That did happen. Um, there was a lot of good quotables. I want to start my take with a good quotable and a funny quotable. Are you cool with that, E?
Yeah, let's do it.
The first quotable, the good one. Myles Garrett said he feels an attention to detail and attention to discipline that wasn't always here last year. That was a great quote. Both Zach Jackson and Daniel Fusi got that pulled from Myles Garrett. I'm assuming every reporter heard him say that and probably have that in their articles. The funny one, however, is a few more snaps for Flacco. Now Huntley is in. I just don't get it. Even Allen Iverson would admit that this is an important practice. That was Jackson tweeting during practice, talking about why Shedeur Sanders wasn't getting a lot of reps when he is starting the game on Friday. So there is the tale of two coins with what's going on with this team right now.
Again, I think it's nothing. It'll be interesting to see how Shador looks, though. Obviously, timing has to do a lot with quarterbacks and receivers, and potentially working with different guys during that. I heard a lot of talk about why is Huntley being brought in. Well, we just don't have the guys. You're not going to start Flacco. Two guys are hurt. You need guys to take reps. Again, another nothing story. Um, it should be fun though. I'm so looking forward to Friday. I think the defense is shaping up pretty well. We've talked about this a lot better in my mind anyway than the offense.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, running back makes me nervous. We were talking a little more about what's going to
So why
happen
does
there.
so why does running back make you nervous because I'm trying to find the comment from Dylan Northrup. He sent it a little bit earlier and said, I haven't heard a word about Dylan Sampson. Is there any word on his performance in camp thus far? I've seen and read some things. I've heard some things. I wanted to know what bothered you, per se.
No, it's not that anything bothered me. I just our guy isn't there, and that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that, you know, Samson's obviously his opportunities expanding by default now. Um, I just, Jerome Ford's the number one guy. I'm not hot on him. I don't think he's that special.
You're
Uh,
referring to the depth chart again, correct?
I mean, generally speaking, he's probably the one guy.
Yeah.
Um, I just, he's never been that electric spark that I thought Quinshon could come in and be for us. Obviously, I'm comparing backs to the guy we let go, right? And when you let Nick Chubb go, regardless of injury, the comparisons are going to follow, and it's tough because I don't know if that's fair. Um, but in order to do what we need to do and have a play action offense, which again Stefanski likes in that pro style, we need guys that can eat up yards and break some off. And I just don't know. Like, I'm not impressed so far, is what I'm saying. I think that I'm excited for Samson. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm excited to see him. And he's got high upside, but we just don't know yet.
Yeah, so you hit on two notes that I want to go down. One is the Nick Chubb note, and then obviously the Dylan Sampson note. Aside from the viral clip of Carson Swessinger blowing him up in the gap during one of our open practices before we went to Carolina,
He
I've
looks
heard,
amazing, by the way.
yeah, he does look amazing. I know we don't focus on the defense enough because all the talking points are over on the offense, but the defense is as advertised this season. Back to Dylan Sampson, though. Dylan Sampson, from everything that I've heard, everything I've listened to, everything I've read, has been looking pretty solid at camp. So don't be afraid by the fact that he was a fifth round or fourth round pick. I forget off the top of my head. And he's a smaller running back, but runs in that big body style. There's still a lot of good things coming out about Dylan Sampson. It does suck that Quinshon Judkins is not at camp still because obviously they were going to give him that bell cow role. And now we're trying to kind of cobble it together with Pierre Strong, Jerome Ford, and of course, Dylan Sampson. Now, you mentioned Nick Chubb, and I am not coming on here to slander Nick Chubb. I would never do such a thing.
But
But from all accounts at Texans practice, especially since he's had to step up into that running back one role with the injuries they have going on over there, it hasn't been super pretty. That report came out today that Nick Chubb hasn't been super pretty. I mean, there's a lot of things to love about Nick Chubb. It's all the same stuff that we love about Nick Chubb, but it hasn't been pretty in terms of the output on the field and having that burst that Nick Chubb used to have.
let me back you up a little bit because I was in favor of moving on from Chubb, as hard of
Correct.
as a decision as it was.
Yeah,
And what I meant by that is comparing rookies or the successor to the kind of success that he had
that's
in the
fair.
past,
Yeah.
not where he's at now. I will say you mentioned Samson, not being a workhorse kind of guy. He's not a three down back. That's the biggest problem. He's more of a change of pace back. Um, and that's my issue with Samson. Not that he's not going to be good for us. He's just not going to be the guy out there constantly, and he's not meant to be.
No, he's not meant to be, but that's where you hope that you can have a Jerome Ford, which in a smaller role, first of all, I think Jerome Ford still fits on this roster and has a spot, whether that be with the Judkins or whatnot. Yeah, it still sucks and it's still scary that Judkins isn't here. And what are we going to do at running back in an offense that is supposed to be so run heavy?
Right.
That's a place where I wonder if they make a move the longer this gets played out, because there's rumors that Judkins is going to fight for his name, and glory is the first word that I came from, but he's going to fight to honor his name basically and say that none of this stuff happened. This is again rumors. I'm not speaking for the guy or the case or whatever.
Well,
But
hold on.
there's a
Let's jump in a little bit because
okay.
I do think it's important to note, obviously that 911 call came out in July, and off
Wait,
the
Eric,
rip,
do you want to tell the people about when you sent it to me though?
I sent it to Noah like 3 days ago.
Yesterday.
Um, was it yesterday?
It was
Oh, well, I
yesterday, and
sent
you
it
were
to
like,
Noah
"Why haven't we talked
yesterday.
about this on the show?" And I was like, "We already did."
We didn't talk about it on the show, though.
We didn't play the clip, but yes, we did talk about the 911 call coming out regardless.
Whatever. I have what Bruce Willis has. Let's move on. Listen, what I'm trying to say, though, is you should always believe the woman first and foremost.
100%.
But I'll say it, it's a little dicey here. She calls 911 5 days after the supposed incident happened, the alleged incident. Still has bruises on her body, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, PSA, don't call 911 if it's not an emergency. The funny thing about the 911 clip, maybe it's not funny, but the guy who answered sounded kind of annoyed. 911 is for actual emergencies. It's not for 5 day later reports. But she calls 5 days later. She starts the call off by saying that she was abused 5 days ago by, how did she phrase it? Um, like a
It
guy
was,
of note.
yeah, a guy of notoriety or something like that.
And she calls from some random guy's phone. I don't even know who that is. You hear him in the background. I'm just saying, 5 days in a court of law, anything could have happened in 5 days. Who's to say somebody else didn't put their hands on her? Um, and she only called to do the right thing after she realized it wasn't going to be worked out uh, with Quinchon.
Yeah, I don't like to get into the semantics of actual court cases and this kind of thing. And the only reason I don't personally, while I understand and I get what you're saying, to me it's not my right to judge or put that out there in any type of way. I'm
Well,
gonna
it's
let
in
the dude.
public.
It is public, but it's not my place, in my opinion, to say anything about it. In terms of
Listen, it's
that
he
thing.
said, she said at this point. Whether she's telling the truth or he's telling the truth, I'll tell you, the court of law is probably going to side in his favor, which means a settlement because it's never going to trial. We're never going to see that go to trial.
It's just interesting to me, though, to go back to what I was saying before we started talking about the phone call again, was the fact that there's rumors coming out that he's gonna like fight it basically instead of trying to settle. It's gonna be super super interesting to see how long it plays out and see what exactly happens with this whole situation, and if that means we're going to add a running back, if we're going to do something like that. And I do want to add real quick too, since we did touch on the phone call, that I hope whatever happened and whatever went down, the right outcome comes out of this, and it isn't something like some of the other situations we've seen with the team.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. You played the clip last week, though, that ownership is pretty certain that he's going to be a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, that was something Jimmy Haslam said last week. Let's move back to the quarterback thing for a second. So today they had the joint practice in Carolina.
Hmm.
Stefanski obviously announced that Shedeur was going to be the starter on Friday night. Of course, me and you are both, I think, pretty excited for that game.
Yeah, definitely. Birthday game.
Birthday game indeed. Happy early birthday, by the way, to
This
E.
guy going out of town, who's the one that pushed me to have a night out. He's like, you gotta go out, invite everybody, and then he's like, yeah, I'll be out of town. This
Yeah,
guy.
that does happen. Um, Listen, quarterbacks though.
Yeah.
We had obviously a split of reps. They said Flacco and Pickett were going to be limited in today's practice as they have, or not Flacco, excuse me, Pickett and Gabriel are going to be limited in today's practice as they have been with their hamstring injuries. Flacco had 9 reps today with in terms of team periods. Sanders had 7, Gabriel had 4, Pickett had 3, Huntley also had 3. That's how that kind of shook out. There wasn't anything crazy notable. There was a great ball from Pickett to, I believe, Judy. It might have been Tillman, as well as Gabriel had a deep ball to, it might have been Deontay Johnson for a touchdown. But other than that, that was mainly in 7-on-7s. Sanders then took most of the reps with the twos. Still has not touched any of the first team offensive players whatsoever, though. And then,
Which, hold on, pause real
good.
quick on that because Shannon Sharp kind of eviscerated the Browns. I don't know if you saw where he said they're trying to break him, talking about Shedeur. What are your thoughts on what Sharp said?
Yeah, and I alluded to this a little bit in the earlier in the episode as well. I don't get why anybody would think that we are trying to sabotage Shedeur or not want to see Shedeur succeed, because if Shedeur is in fact that guy that me and you saw pre-draft, a lot of fans saw pre-draft, Colorado fans definitely thought pre-draft, himself probably thought pre-draft as well. That's the answer to our problems. So why would we not want that to happen? There's no reason for
Here,
that.
let me read you what Shannon Sharp said specifically. He said, what are the Browns doing? How are we supposed to trust this organization when it comes to choosing quarterbacks? They haven't figured it out all these years. All of a sudden, now they've got the motherfucking sense. Sorry for my language. That was his language, not mine. The depth chart to me doesn't mean anything. We know what Joe Flacco would do when the lights come on. Kenny Pickett had his opportunity when he was drafted to the Steelers. No disrespect to him. He's not the answer. Dylan Gabriel had success at Oregon, but it's a different ballgame in the NFL when grown men have mouths to feed. Sounds like he's putting a lot of disrespect on both Gabriel and Kenny Pickett.
It's, to me, first of all, you know how I feel personally about any national media head talking about a small market like Cleveland. It does nothing for me because you don't even know what's going on half of the time. I know Shannon Sharp is also close to the Sanders family, so of course he's going to go to bat for Shedeur. To me, the Browns' job at the end of the day, as much as I enjoy Shedeur, as much as you enjoy Shedeur, I mean, I'm wearing the shirt, is not to satisfy the Colorado fans, the Sanders family fans, the Browns fans that are fans of Colorado, any mixture of all these people by playing Shedeur. Their job is to evaluate and put out the best quarterback that they believe can play this for this team without any of the outside noise. Now, he mentions that they started Shedeur. The reason Shedeur is starting on Friday is not because, all of a sudden we just came up with a grand idea of maybe Shedeur deserves starting reps. It's because Kenny Pickett's hurt and because Dylan Gabriel's hurt, and it's a preseason game. So the only non-injured quarterback that was on the roster is going out there. Same thing with why they signed Tyler Huntley. Everyone went in a cluster storm of, why did we sign another quarterback? Because we need someone to play on Friday. And as much as I would love to watch Shedeur play 4 quarters, there's no reason for him to play 4 quarters in a preseason game. What did you think about the quote?
Honestly, well, first of all, he talks about them trying to break Shedeur. I think it's ridiculous. You're absolutely right. Listening to a talking head, I just thought it was interesting because there's so much momentum and so much talk around Shedeur specifically. That said, though, honestly, what came out to me when they said Shedeur and Huntley are going to play the whole game, I thought, that's it, just the two of them. It's interesting because he's going to get plenty of reps, but I was a little surprised that they would only have 2 guys playing that entire game. They're kind of forced to, I get it. But normally you see more than that. Normally you see 3 guys.
3 or 4 potentially, depending on how deep your quarterback room goes. I mean, there's years.
Right.
Remember when Josh Rosen was here? This is a complete side tangent, but Josh Rosen was here and played preseason reps for us, and that didn't bother us. But Snoop Huntley coming in for his 3rd time on our practice squad all of a sudden is causing an uproar. Mind-boggling to me.
It is mind-boggling. Shedeur has his chance, though. He's going to get plenty of reps on Friday, and he's going to be able to potentially go and ball out. If that doesn't capture attention, then nothing will. The fact is, like you said, the Cleveland Browns as an organization and Kevin Stefanski as a coach, they want to win. And they're going to play the guy that gives us the best chance of winning. Did maybe they put Shedeur down further than people expected him to go because of his last name? Spoiler alert, the entire NFL did that. We got him where we got him because the entire league did that. So it's not some grand conspiracy to keep him off the field. I think they see him as a developmental project, which he is. And if that shapes into something that can benefit us, you'll see the results of that, which means he'll fly up the depth chart and we'll see more out of him. That's just football, guys. That's what
Yeah,
we're talking about. The reason we're so hyper focused on Shedeur Sanders is because of the hype surrounding his name.
correct.
Because they retired his number at Colorado, despite not going to the playoffs or winning out or whatever. He's a talent, yes, but there's so much hype that teams felt the need to put him in his place a little bit. And I got to tell you, from everything I've seen, the kid has put his head down and he's worked. I hope he works out because he actually seems like a good kid. I mean, the fact that he told his dad, don't show up to camp, I don't want that distraction. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm working on it. That tells me all I need to know about him right now. But guys, we got to get that spotlight off the quarterbacks. We're doing what media always does, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. I laugh because my next note on my list of things that we haven't talked about yet is you said get the spotlight off quarterback. And my next note is Deshaun Watson was in Carolina today, by the way,
Oh,
which I thought
God.
was completely, absolutely interesting. And you want to give me a reaction on that real quick?
Why? Uh, can we just move on from this guy, whatever it takes?
Right.
Um, at this point, like, come on, just I don't know. Can't we start like Cleveland Browns fan shop in the Arctic Circle and send him up there to run it for a few years while the remaining contract is
The
up?
$230 million sales manager,
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson.
I'm fine
Okay.
with that. But he's on the
Typical.
pup list. Can't we just let it go?
Yeah, no. We'll see. They can't because of the money. So I get why we're playing
Sunk
nice. We have
cost,
to
though.
play. It's a sunk cost, but you can't take that much of a sunk cost. You would be eating the most amount of dead cap in the history of the NFL. Whereas if you do it next year with insurance money, then you save a ton of money. It makes sense. We've talked about this, Eric. I also do not want him in orange and brown anymore. I am with you, but you know, typical Browns fan says it doesn't matter if he plays bad. One, you'll hear he didn't play with the ones. Two, he didn't get enough reps to be ready, even though he is throwing to the wide receivers he's been throwing to all camp, which is correct. I do see this as a double positive type of situation for him, though. Him starting, of course, in the Carolina game because of the fact that if he goes out there and plays bad, it isn't going to deter him from being viewed as a potential starter down the line or a potential player for this team because of the situation he's in. Basically, I'm saying, yes, I see what you're saying and I agree with it, but I also see it more in a positive light. Whereas if he goes out there and balls out, he's playing against the ones and it's a good sign from him.
I think what Shador, and again, all indication is mentally he's in a good place. But I think what Shador should take from all of the noise is to be Lamar Jackson. And I know that might sound silly, but think of how much hate. I mean, he still gets it, but think how much hate Lamar Jackson got coming into this league. He's a wide receiver, he's not a quarterback. The man has done nothing but put up historic numbers. Set aside the playoffs and what happens in the playoffs for a second. He's an elite quarterback. And I think Shador should take some comfort knowing that the exact same thing happened to Lamar. We don't need to get into why that happens with these particular quarterbacks. I think it's there. But the typical Browns fan, he's absolutely right in what he's saying. The kid can't win from a social media perspective, so he shouldn't even try. Just go out there and ball out and let your body of work be what proves it. Because I'll tell you this, Shador, if you are listening, if you play well for the Browns, nothing else matters. Period. You will be the savior of the city. People will love you. And there will still be people that will tear you down. Like the monologue from Air talking about Michael Jordan. They will love to tear you down, and that's never going to go away. But if you stay true to yourself and you work hard, that's all you can do, man.
No, I agree with everything you're saying as well. The monuments that will be built for Shedeur Sanders or any quarterback for this matter, as soon as we get one in this city, is going to be insane. Think of Baker Mayfield and how much we loved him and put that times 10 because there isn't a question mark anymore. That's
Yeah.
just me. Before we move on to guards, Erik, real quick, I want to preview some of the betting lines and stuff for the Browns game and a little bit about the Browns-Panthers game, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So the Browns are coming into this game because, yes, you can bet on preseason football if you are feeling like an absolute degenerate and miss betting on football like myself. The Browns are plus 6.5-point favorites, not favorites, but they are getting 6.5 for the game.
That's not favorites.
Yeah, I said it wrong. Regardless, for the game, the over-under is at 32.5. The Browns money line is at plus 220 right now. Some of the fun prop bets, not really prop bets, but some of the different bets that are out there. I looked at the two main books, one being FanDuel, the other being DraftKings. On FanDuel, you can bet for the Browns to win by 1 through 13 points for plus 280. And if they win by 14, it's plus 1200. For the Browns to score first, plus 130 on DraftKings, or over 13.5 is plus 120.
Browns for life. Does Sanders score over 10 points?
Yeah, why not?
I think so,
It's
too.
time to be legendary. It's just another day at the office for him, in my opinion.
I'm going to say he throws 2 touchdowns and maybe even rushes 1. I think he's going to have a hell of a debut, honestly. That's a lot, but...
I don't know if it'll be that much because we're talking he's probably playing a half of football and then they let Snoop play with the 3s and the 4s. So that way we don't have to worry about injuries for one of the quarterbacks they're actually invested in. But I could see him getting 10 or more points on the board for the Browns. I don't think it's impossible. It's not like we're playing a Carolina ones that are phenomenal team that were in the playoffs last year. We're talking about a team that was trying to figure out if their young quarterback even made sense for them in the first place. They could go out there, have a 4-and-out, and Shedeur drive down the field because he has a connection with a guy like Luke Floria or whatnot.
Yeah, by the way, we didn't mention it before, but that preseason game is Friday, and it is on ABC, if I'm not mistaken, as well as the NFL Network. I think
Yeah,
they're
the NFL.
simulcasting.
Yeah, the NFL Network is having all 3 of our preseason games because of Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, we have talked
Makes
at length
sense.
about the hype, but yes, the NFL Network will carry all 3 of our preseason games. So if you are out of town like I am, you can still watch the game. And I want to shout out Typical Browns fan for reposting the stream. It really helps us grow the brand and everything that we got going on as well.
Baltimore, Cincy tomorrow at 4, by the way, and Las Vegas, Seattle at 7. We are so back, baby.
I'm so excited that football is back. I can't wait to sit on my girlfriend's family's couch and watch a bunch of 2s, 3s, and 4s, get after it, and try to make an NFL roster. God damn it.
You could have been with your boy. Instead, you're hanging out with a bunch of Bengals fans. Are they Bengals fans?
No. Her dad is a Colts fan because they're from Indy. Bree is a Browns fan because of me, and her mom probably honestly doesn't really care, but would say Colts because of Zach.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else from Browns before we jump to our Gardos?
Well, let's do a quick prediction. Why not? What do you think's
Okay.
going to happen? Like score-wise, I know you gave the Shedeur thing. Do you think the Browns win this preseason game? I know it's kind of like who really cares, but let's do it for the fun of it.
Yeah, I do think the Browns will win. I think we'll see a 28-14 win. Couple touchdowns from Shedeur. By the way, I do want to get into. We're gonna have a segment later this year where we bet weekly on NFL and we can track our results. You and I. I'm really looking forward to that. To be honest with you, DraftKings, FanDuel, whoever wants to sponsor that segment, hit us up. But yeah, I think the Browns get the win. Honestly, preseason, though, is the time to try things. So if you get frustrated at Stefanski for a certain play call or the fact that he didn't go for it on 4th and 1 or he did go for it on 4th and 6 or whatever he's doing, you're not trying to win the game. Just know that. So I know it's frustrating as a Browns fan, but if you're looking at it going, hey, they could have gone for it there and won or whatever, they're trying to see the pieces and who's going to work and who's going to make the roster. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
So I just want to let it be known because the bet was if the Browns win by 14 or more, you get plus 1,200 on that. So $10 turns into $120. Erik, multiple people in the group, or not in the group chat, in our comments Erik, everyone is saying, take that bet. So go out there, spend your money, because Erik signed, sealed, and approved it right here on At the Office.
28-14, final prediction.
That's funny. I don't know. This is so hard. I'll echo Dylan Northrup for the hell of it and say 31-17 Browns is my prediction. And if it ends up being 12-10, I almost said Bengals, Panthers, then so be it. It's a preseason game. I'm here to watch and see what's going on with some of these young bloods that we got on the Cleveland Browns roster right now.